Hi everyone, this is Dr. Day with AlignLife of Warsaw. Today we're going to be covering the guide to max results. If you can recall, there are three main parts to getting well. Number one is the adjustment, which is the job of the chiropractor. But the other two parts are breaking the bad habits and also the basic exercises that you need to rehabilitate your spine. So today we're going to be covering the guide for max results. And oftentimes these are microtraumatic stresses that continuously re-aggravate our spine. And although they're things that we have to do throughout the day, if we can do them smarter, we're going to help ourselves out. The very first thing that we're going to cover is vehicles, how to get in and out of our vehicle appropriately without it injuring our spine. So imagine if we're getting inside of our driver's side of our car. We obviously want to open the door, but rather than throwing our leg in like this to have a seat, which puts a lot of strain on our spine, what we do recommend is that you sit on the edge of the seat like this and then spin towards the center of the chair. Once you're sitting on your driver's seat, you do want to take an extra moment and position your hips, making sure that your weight is evenly distributed. You want to make sure that your knees are pointing straight ahead as well as your feet. When it comes to the steering wheel, rather than grabbing it 10 and 2 the way that we were taught, we prefer to have people grab it 9 and 3. And the reason for that will take some of the stress off of the base of the neck and the shoulders. For the headrest, I'm going to go ahead and turn the chair to the side. We want to make sure that our head is not being pushed forward by our headrest, that it hits us in a neutral position. We're going to talk about posture in just a moment, but we want to make sure that basically our ears are right over our shoulders and our shoulders are right over the hips. For the lower half of our body, we want to make sure that our knees and our hips are parallel. Unfortunately, with bucket seats, sometimes we can get to where our knees are higher than our hip. If that's the case for you in your vehicle, you may need to sit on a towel or adjust your chair if it has the potential to do that. But again, this is the ideal situation. If you can get as close to this as possible, you're going to reduce the stress on your spine. When you get out of the vehicle, we prefer that you get out the same way that you got in, meaning that right here, and spin to the side and stand up. That's in contrast to just throwing your leg out to the side. And this will help to reduce a lot of the strain on the lower back. If you can do this and your job is in and out of the vehicle all day, it's going to have a very large impact on that. Unfortunately, the majority of us use a cell phone throughout the day. A couple key points: if you have to use a cell phone, or a regular phone throughout your workday, we want to make sure that we're not pinching the phone between our shoulder and our ear. If you have an opportunity to use a headset, either a wireless headset or just a regular secretarial headset, that's going to allow you to stay in that neutral position. If you are on a cell phone and you absolutely have to hold it up to your ear, do make sure that you switch sides as well, that you're not always using the same side. Unfortunately, with this day and age, technology is something that we all rely and depend on, and how we hold our cell phone can also have a large bearing in terms of how much stress we put on our neck. Unfortunately, the way that the majority of us use our phones is with our head in our lap like this. We want to make sure that if we are using a phone, that we're holding it in an upright position. I'm not saying you have to walk around with your head up like this, but if you can at least hold it in a relatively neutral position rather than flexing the head forward, that will make a significant improvement on the base of the neck. Remember, our head weighs about 10 to 12 pounds, and for each additional inch that our head goes forward, it's the same as adding 10 additional pounds per inch. So that can put a lot of strain on the base of our neck. Think of your teenager at home, think of your toddler at home as well. Make sure that they're not doing the same thing to their spine at an early age. One of the great tips I like to give people, if they're going to be using their phone in the evening, is to make sure that they have a pillow on their lap and very simply hold the phone with their elbow on the pillow. That allows them to hold it in a more neutral position so it's not always stressing their spine. Hopefully those tips can help you out. The next is number 3, which is lifting. Some people have to lift objects throughout the day. Again, this is going to be the ideal situation. Use it if it applies for you. But the one key point that we want to make sure of is that we're not extending our body when we go to pick something up. So if I were to pick up this chair, the worst thing that I could do is be extended, rotate, and pick it up, or to be extended right here to pick it up. We always want to be as close to the object as we can. Use our knees as much as we can to pick up the object, and then lift. When we lift, we want to try and maintain a tight core as we're picking the object up. That's going to protect our lower back. A lot of people are very curious, should I use a brace or lumbar support for my lower back? Only if you're doing a lot of repetitive lifting would we ever recommend that we wear that. It does put less strain on the lower back, but unfortunately that can weaken our paraspinal muscles to the point where it can cause more damage than it's actually preventing. One other key tip is with children, whether it's your own child or a grandchild or a niece or a nephew, whenever we go to pick them up, the worst thing to do is to grab them from here and then place them onto our hip. The best way to do it, if you're able and your knees are okay, is to come down to one knee, have the child run up to you, keeping your spine in a straight neutral position and lifting the child up from here, okay? That's in opposition again to grabbing and twisting. The next is posture. That's number 4. Just as we were talking about with sitting in the vehicle, it's the same rules that apply whether we're sitting in a vehicle, whether we're sitting at work, or whether we're lying down. And quite simply, our ears should be directly over our shoulders, and our shoulders should be directly over our hips. We can apply this to whether we're sitting at work in front of our computer, whether we're sitting at home watching TV, or whether we're, again, driving down the road. Remembering that ears are over shoulders and shoulders are over the hips. From our straight on view, I'm going to sit just so I'm in the way of the camera, but we want to make sure that our ears are level, our shoulders are level, and that our hips are level. Unfortunately, a lot of times we'll see people come in when they just start with care, one shoulder will be a little bit higher than the other. If we see that occurring, that's a problem, and that's something that we can correct towards normal. So if you do have friends or family members that are not getting their spine checked, or if you see them walking around like this, understand that that's a very correctable spinal issue. The next is bedding. We want to make sure that we're not using water beds. Unfortunately, they're still out there. The reason why we don't like water beds is they're not supportive, and the heat can produce inflammation throughout the spine and throughout the night. So we want to avoid the usage of water beds. We do want to make sure that a mattress is less than 6 to 8 years of age. As we go beyond that, a lot of times it doesn't always support our spine the way that it should. I like the Beauty Rest mattress. It's a firm, supportive mattress at a good price. Furniture Factory Outlet in just on the other side of town carries that mattress. It's fantastic. How we get in and out of bed can also be important. And I want to show you a way that you can get out of bed and off a pelvic bench after an adjustment without putting strain on your lower back. In order to do that, from here, we recommend that someone post their elbow here as they swing their legs around to come into the seated position and then stand up, okay? You can get down the same way. That's in opposition to just throwing your leg and trying to stand up. You guys get the point on that, but we just want to protect that lower back if that is a tender or sore area for you. That way you're not irritating it each time that you get in and out of bed. Number 7 is the seated position. We covered it basically with posture. Just a few things to add into that. Those of you who love to sit in recliners, I have bad news for you. It's not the best position for your spine. And unfortunately, the majority of recliners, I'll demonstrate with a chair that is not a recliner, the majority of them don't support our lower back, and they allow us to round here, and then they have a big pillow top that pushes our head forward, and then we have our foot plate that kicks out, and we have our hamstrings that are pulled tight, and that puts more strain on our lower back. So if it's the only chair that you have at home, you can use it, but you want to make sure that you're supporting the lower back and that you're keeping your feet on the floor, and that's going to prevent a lot of additional irritation on the spine. In addition to that, we also want to make sure that we never sit for more than 30 minutes at one time. I know that sounds like a challenge to some of you, but I encourage you to take that challenge and make sure that you get up and move every 30 minutes. It's a lot of compression on that lower back, whether we're sitting on a comfy couch or a hard straight back chair. It's a lot of strain on the spine anytime we're seated for more than 30 minutes. It's a great challenge for you. Pillows are another concern, depending on how you like to sleep. A side laying position does require a thicker pillow. That way it's the thickness of our shoulder. If we're lying on our back, we need a thin pillow or even no pillow at all to lay flat. Remember, whether we're sitting, standing, lying down, walking, sleeping, what have you, we should always have our ears right over our shoulders and our shoulders over our hips. So we can't use the same pillow for sleeping on our side as we do on our back. If you're only a side sleeper, a thicker pillow works fine. If you're only a back sleeper, either a thin pillow or just something to support the base of the neck is fine. If you like to go back and forth between the two, You can look into the contoured pillows that we cover or that we carry here. There are other places that have those as well. Feel free to try them. The one that we have works very well. It's the pillow that I sleep on personally. If you ever have a question about your pillow, don't hesitate to bring it into the office and we'll make sure that it fits you appropriately. Number 9 is don't play doctor. The biggest thing that we're after here is avoid poking and prodding the areas that we're actually adjusting. A lot of times people are very intrigued that we can poke an area that's actually tender that they did not know was there, and they go back to try and reproduce it and they're unable to do that. I just encourage you to leave the areas that we're adjusting alone. That joint and those tissues are healing as a result of the adjustment. Also try to avoid any sudden movements or bending or twisting right after the adjustment. It is okay to go to the gym and work out, but we want to avoid any rapid, sudden jerking style movements, especially the first 4 to 6 hours after the adjustment. Bathing is number 10. What I would like to see people avoid is getting into the C-shaped position with their spine. And unfortunately, when we're in a bathtub, that's very hard to avoid. So you may use a bathtub to bathe, but I do encourage you to sit as upright as you can. If you're tired and you're using the bathtub to relax, we encourage you to just bathe and then go to bed. If you're that tired, it's best to just lie down and go to sleep. And then number 11 is on rest. And this is a very large topic, and what I want to focus in on is just the necessity of picking out a very short period of time in your day for rest. And what I encourage most people to do are the last 10 minutes of your lunch break. Just shut the world out, basically. Shut your radio off, turn your cell phone off. You can call it prayer, you can call it meditation, call it relaxation, whatever you like, but just make sure that you're shutting the world out for about 10 minutes. As you do that, that should help to reduce the cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone. It's going to make you more effective in those afternoon hours. Most people report better mental clarity, better focus, and even better energy in those afternoon and early evening hours as a result of doing that. So I do challenge everyone to spend the last 10 minutes of their lunch break and truthfully just relax. Watch what that does to your afternoon hours. Do that every day for 2 weeks and let me know how it goes. So I hope this was informative for you, and if you have any additional questions about how this information applies to you at home, how it applies to you at work, or how it applies to your life specifically, please don't hesitate to ask. Send us an email, schedule a consultation, and we're happy to discuss it in further detail. Enjoy the rest of your day.